Hello and welcome to another update. So it has been a good 3 days or 3 days and a half even since the last video. Now I did actually record quite a decent amount of clips. I think I had over 2 hours of stuff recorded, but I decided to scrap a lot of it. And then eventually I decided to upload some of it because we did do a test of running 20 Uber orders with the profits included and the items, everything we got. Unfortunately, that whole thing got corrupted, so we cannot show it. I do still have, however, the notepad of the loot tracks we kept. So the 20 cells, it cost me at the time 26 results, I think that was a few days ago. And this is the loot we got, so from only the drops we made 20x. We managed to get 5 watchers, which if I sold them un-ID'd, it would have been 25x right there. And 5 watchers in 20 runs is actually not even lucky. I think you should expect to get 6 or even 7, since it's a 1 in 3 chance, from what I've heard from most people. And then we also got 6 exalts in influenced items. Altogether we had an exquisite blade that was I-86 Elder, which was 2 exalt, and then all the other stuff does add up as well. So if we sold the watchers un-ID'd, we would have had 51 exalts. And then we would have profited 25x from only 20 runs. Now we did ID the watchers, and I mean obviously since the clip corrupted, we got 4 watchers that were pretty worthless. I think one of them was 1.5x and the other ones, 3 of them were 1x, but we did get a double zealotry mode watchers, which ended up selling actually by now for 20 exalts. So from the watchers we actually made about 23 exalts or 24 exalts, which is a bit loss, I suppose, in us selling him un-ID'd, but at least thanks to the big watchers we did manage to almost break even on them. So we still profited like a good 25 exalts, maybe 24 exalts from 20 runs. Now also while making this ranger, it's level 88 by now, but it's 3 days old, and of course in those 3 days I did resort back to bossing quite a few times, since this ranger we did manage to dump a lot of currency into it, so every time I ran out I just go back on my miner and boss, which are the advantages of just having a bossery geared at all times. So we did do a lot of bossing as well. Now when I first started this character, I tried to stay away from headhunter at first and try and make it work as a ranger just for mapping. With deck stacking was my first go-to. So as you can see here we do have quite a few items. Now ignore the prices I've just listed for, especially this bow. Most likely they will not sell for these prices. It's definitely not the price I got them for. So this bow, what we did is we managed to buy this as a magic item. I still have the imprint of it here in case I want to return it to the original, which was the attack speed double damage hybrid with the dex mod on there. We bought it for 5 exalts unlinked, so we 6-linked it ourselves. After that we made it, we regaled it. Well, we first imprinted, of course, in case we messed up the regal. So we regaled it, we had lightning resists, and what I did then with the harvest crafting, we removed the lightning modifier, which only could remove the lightning resists. So we had a 2 mod rare item at that point. Now what I wanted to do at this point was craft cold resist on it and then augment it with a lucky cold augment from harvest. Unfortunately I farmed quite a few seeds, but we never got the craft. I suppose the craft is quite rare. So the idea was with that is to hit flat cold damage, because there's only 2 outcomes, flat cold and Fizz's extra cold. And if we did hit Fizz's extra cold, what we would do is use another harvest craft, which is remove a random physical modifier, which would remove that modifier, and then we can just try again until we hit flat cold. So that was the plan with the bow, and then of course multi-mod it like this. Unfortunately the craft was a bit too rare, so I decided to multi-mod it out anyway, and once we do get the craft we can add the flat cold on it. But I have moved on from deck stacking, at least for now. I might return to it in the future, so we're gonna try and sell this bow. Realistically I think I'll most likely get about 15 exalts for this, so definitely not 30 exalts. Unless we maybe get the cold craft on here, then it might sell for 30 exalts, but that is that. Chests, we used Furl's Fur for a bit as well, mainly since I suppose every league I try to give it a go, but I never do. So I did this league. Unfortunately I didn't give it a go long enough because I was not a fan. It is good, especially for bossing, because you always have your charges up, you have more speed as well, but the damage you get from higher ire, especially early on, does carry quite a bit. So I just stuck with the higher ire for now. The gloves as well, we started off with these since I wanted the +1 frenzy charge and the attack crit on an implicit, which is pretty hard to get on an older pair of gloves. So we went with these, which were also decent live and resist at the time. And then the rings, we did get this ring for 1 exalt actually, and we had pretty much the identical ring with tier 1 life, tier 1 dex, and then pretty high resists on there. The old ring did end up selling for 4 exalts, so I think this one will eventually sell as well. And both rings we managed to get at 1 exalt, and we sold them at 4, so that's easy profit there. The amulet, we just awakener orbed with the damage per 15 dex and the percent dex. Managed to hit this, so that cost me about 4.5 exalts at the time. Now I don't think it'll sell for 9 exalts, it'll most likely sell for around 7 exalts or 6 exalts, so we'll still make a decent amount of profit on it, but it's just a basic amulet. And then this, we actually just bought a Fractal Thoughts. This I got for 1 exalt actually, since I don't think anyone still uses Scourge Arrow in terms of hit based actually, so I don't think this enchant on Fractal Thought is worth anything at all anymore. But I do have the only one, so I decided to put it at a pretty ridiculous price. If someone offers me even 10 exalts for this, I will most likely sell it, but there's that. So we didn't use Scourge Arrow, it's just that the enchant was available for pretty cheap, so I saw an opportunity and I bought it. I still have some boss loot to sell, some boots here. I think we got this for a lot. Well, I think we got this one for 1 exalt and this one for half an X. But I don't think this will sell for 2x, this will most likely sell for 1x. And I do think this one will sell for 2x because it's a lot of resist and life, and it also has the dodge spell hits on here. So that was the geared first, and we went with Ice Shot and Barrage, pretty well-known setup I suppose. But unfortunately I did not like it. Now there's quite a few factors to it. First of all, I'm 88 now, but when I was running that setup it was around the level 80s, the low 80s. Even high 70s, so I was missing a lot of levels. On top of that, my gems, they're level 19 and 18 now, but they were even lower than that at the time, so I was missing a lot of damage from that. The gear wasn't optimized, my skill tree wasn't optimized. I didn't have a Watchers at the time, I do now, so I was missing quite a few stuff and levels, and more importantly even Awakened gems. Now I did buy a few Awakened gems now, but at the time I had none. And especially on a bow character you can actually get quite a few Awakened gems in your setup. So I was missing quite a few things. I was also missing a helm enchant on the other build, so I was missing quite a few things. So of course if I just stuck to that character, upgraded it and sorted it out, I'll most likely have made it work. But unfortunately the main reason why I want this ranger is for something else. So I decided to scrap the whole idea of deck stacking. I might revisit it in the future. But the main thing I usually make a ranger for is for farming 5-ways. Now, with Self-Curse getting nerfed, that's actually a big hit to us, which if that wasn't the case, I mean I would have been farming 5-ways like non-stop already. But with that being nerfed, that is a big hit to 5-ways because that used to carry a lot. So what I decided to do is just go for my 5-way setup anyway, and instead of using 2 Inspired Learnings, what I usually do is I actually went for a 3rd Inspired now, so we are running 3 Inspired Learnings. We're still running the Solstice for that little bit of extra duration on the buffs. Did manage to buy the Headhunter since we sold at 20 Exalt Watchers, so we managed to buy this. I think it cost me about 54 Exalts, so not actually too expensive this league, but there's a good reason for it. And then the rest of the gear, we managed to get this, a Fractal Thoughts with the Lightning Arrow enchant. It's nothing big, but it was pretty cheap, so I managed to buy it. Went with Orbrix, which it did get changed. I remember reading the patch notes and thinking the bow is dead, but as long as I don't use a movement skill, the bow is still really strong. Unfortunately, you do lose the movement speed. Well, the movement speed isn't something you lose, because usually you don't get movement speed from your weapon. It's just not something you're gonna get either. But you're getting the +2 arrows, the attack speed, and the decent damage anyway. The quiver, we're using this. The craft on here, I want to get a crit chance hybrid with crit frenzy charge gain on crit, which is the mod I want, but I do not have it currently, so we're just using it as is. 2 taming and high race ire, pretty standard. Solstice, I think I mentioned that, just for the extended duration. I could use a Pandemonius instead, which would give me a lot of damage, and now actually just realizing I still need to get an Anoint on here. So for anointments, I'll most likely either go for this 30 crit multi, or maybe her device for the 6% cold pen, since even though we're using Lightning Arrow, we're still mainly cold damage from the high res and the added weakened added cold damage support. And then here is pretty much all cold and fizz, because we don't really have too much conversion. We have a bit of conversion here, 40%, and of course the Lightning Arrow has built in 50% conversion to lightning, and that's where that lightning damage is coming from. So then Shadows and Dust with attack crit on here. Ideally you want LA weakness on hit on them, but they cost 8 exalts, which is a bit more than I can afford right now. And Boots with just resists life and move speed. Flasks, Dying Sun, Azir's Promise, Cinder Swallow, Quicksilver, and remove Freeze Diamond. What you can also do if you don't use a Dying Sun, if I open my character sheet, so I do have capped resists even without Flask, but what you can actually do is, if I remove my Boots, as you can see all my resists are actually even, since most of it is just from all the rest sources like Tamings and the passive tree. So what you could do here is just use a Wise Oak instead, which you'll always have your Flasks up in a build like this, which means you would be res capped with the Wise Oak, and on top of that have 10% pen. So that's something you can do if you don't use a Dying Sun. Unfortunately I kinda need it, so that's where I went with. Again, the passive 3, I did go for 3 Inspired Learnings, which I might change to 2 again and look into Cluster Jewels, but Cluster Jewels are quite hard to craft at the moment, so I decided to stay away from them. And this Watchers I think cost me 2 exalts. It's just a bit of flat cold on Hatred. I think Cold Pen Hatred might be better, or even base crit, but I haven't looked into it too much. I just went with the cheapest option for now. And then the rest, just pretty basic Ranger nodes here. Like I said, I'm still missing quite a few levels, so once we get some nodes, I even have 200 spent bones, which is likely going to here, finish off this, and then see what else I want to grab. Maybe this actually, since I am using a Lionized Fall, so these are bow nodes, or maybe one of the new ones, but I don't think these new ones are actually worth it. So I'll see, I'll look around what I want to extend to. I guess my Ascendancy is something important. So of course pretty basic. You could unspec, I'd say this one, and grab this for some more damage. More importantly, the 30 life when you hit a bleeding enemy, which is very good for sustain. But for now I'm just gonna use this. If I do end up dying quite a few times, I'll most likely respec into this for the survival. And I think that is the character for now. So that is the character for now. What I want to do next is of course farm 5-ways. Now I done my 4-way, that went pretty easy of course. I did a 1 5-way actually, which I was gonna record, but my disk face was still full, so I lost the recording. But it went okay. It obviously wasn't as good as going self-curse, which is to be expected, but it also wasn't too bad for me to just drop the ID completely. So I will most likely farm a few 5-ways and see how it is. Now the other issue with 5-ways, which is not making me jump onto them as soon as possible, is that I don't know how much profit they still are, since the majority of your profit, at least the last few leagues from them, came from the jewels. So if I have some here, Glorious Vanity and Brutal Restraints, and this is the majority of the big profit you got from them. Unfortunately, most of these are pretty worthless now, with all of them being less than an exalt. I think Brutal Restraint used to be the most expensive one, and it's now 30 chaos, which is absolutely insane, but that's mainly because Wind Dancer, I think it's here now, Glancing Blows, which is here, so the majority of keystones that you got from them, which made them so expensive, they've been moved to the passive tree now, and the new keystones they got are nowhere near as strong as the older ones, so that's mainly why I suppose they crashed in value. So we'll see how much profit it still is. What I'll do is, most likely I'll do the same thing I did with Uber Elder. Now unfortunately you can't see this footage since it crashed, but the next video I'll probably run 20 or 30 5-ways and give you the result of the profit, and if it's even worth doing anymore. And if it is or it isn't, this character most likely will end after there. And then I'll look into making something else that's more versatile for mapping, especially if the profit from 5-ways isn't good enough. That will just make me make a mapper much sooner, since there is quite a lot of money to be made with the harvest crafting stuff. I haven't really done too much with it, but once I do make a quick mapper, I will definitely look more into it and craft some very nice items. So that will be it for this video. Unfortunately no map showcase, but there's good reason to that, since I do not recommend this character at all. If you want to make a mapper, you can definitely make something a lot stronger than this for a lot cheaper, especially for the money into it. It's very low life, so you'll die a lot if you're trying to map on this character. The damage without the buffs is also not too great. It's workable, but it's not too great. Also, the main use of it is going to be farming 5-ways, which as of this moment I still don't even know if the profit's even going to be worth it. I'm more inclined to believe that it won't be, but you can definitely expect a video tomorrow with the loot and the results from the 5 ways. If it's really good, maybe we'll do more of them, but most likely we won't, because the 5 ways at least they'll do is give us quite a bit of XP. So once after that, I haven't decided yet. Either I will respec this into something good for mapping, or I will just look into making a new character completely. I do have a few ideas in mind, maybe going for a Vortex build, or even a cast on crit assassin. So I have a few ideas in mind, and I'll definitely get quite a decent amount of money back from selling all this gear of this ranger. So I'll see you tomorrow.